for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kunal Mooley. I'm an astrophysicist and the co-founder of IMIX, which is the Institute of Mind, Intelligence, and Consciousness Studies. And today, I will be giving you a glimpse of some of our research programs like Reincarnation, Extraordinary Abilities, which is especially relevant for Indian knowledge systems. So science as we know it today uses tools that rely on perceivable objects to probe the nature of reality. And these are very complementary to the Indian knowledge systems where the mind was used as a tool. And as a result, we see quite distinct metaphysics that have come about through these two approaches. However, the mind is an entity that goes beyond physical substrates or substrate that defines physical, perceivable objects. Then it could have perhaps access to a much wider spectrum of reality. And the topics of reincarnation and extraordinary abilities are crucial because they beg the question, do the mind and consciousness exist independently of physical substrate? Just to introduce the topic, the text called Buddha Charita gives the following description. And let me read that for you. On the night of his enlightenment, Buddha recalled the progression in time, place, and circumstances through his past life and different lives, and later the knowledge of the births and deaths of creatures according to their deeds. And similarly, in the Kalpa Sutra states that Mahavira, who was an elder contemporary of Buddha, knew about the conditions, births, deaths, and destinations of all kinds of living beings. And texts from the Jaina school of philosophy describe Mahavira's 26 births before getting a highly enlightened birth. So the concept of reincarnation, as we perhaps know, exists in many schools of Eastern philosophy and medicine and has parallel in other traditions around the world. And these are just some famous contemporaries associated with reincarnation. For example, to the left is Dalai Lama, His Holiness, with Richard Davidson, and to the right is Sadhguru with Emery Brown. So there has been systematic research on reincarnation, which spans more than 2,500 cases of children with past life memories. Most notable is the 50-year research program spearheaded by the Department of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia. And shown on the top left are these UVA researchers, Jim Tucker and Ian Stevenson, studying the cases of American and Southeast Asian children, respectively. Based on the statements of the children, their previous personalities have been identified in about 2/3 of these cases. So more than 1,500 cases, which is quite remarkable as I find it. And many of these cases indicate common features, like the children start speaking about their previous lives at typically the age of 2 or 3. And they speak of coming from a different place and having a different family and having children and spouses. I mean, imagine your child speaking of such things, right? And they show strong craving to meet their previous families. Second, they show unusual behaviors like the child at the bottom left, who claimed to have died from a fighter plane crash. And he started drawing these fighter planes and these crash scenes at the age of 3. The third one is in 5% of the cases, the child had a birthmark that was correlated with a fatal wound on the previous person. Like the child on the bottom right, for example, who claimed to have died out of a gunshot, and his head shows a birthmark at the same location as the gunshot found from the post-mortem report of the previous person. And finally, or maybe the penultimate point, is that the cases show high fraction of gender non-conformity, which is, again, turns out to be very interesting when you compare it with the larger populace. And finally, the large fraction of cases further indicate that unnatural mode of death at a young age of about 30 or less. And this is what suggests that these cases of hundreds of cases are indicative that a natural mode of death together with a young age, death at a young age, results in a higher likelihood for these children to have past life memories. And these previous studies of PLMs have substantially advanced our understanding of reincarnation, and at the same time motivated a new multifaceted research program, in fact, that could extend into these scientific and philosophical domains. So we therefore are now undertaking a new research program to do the following. One, undertake deeper investigations of various schools of Eastern philosophy to consolidate the various Eastern perspectives that exist on reincarnation. Second, doing neurocognitive studies on the children with past life memories. Third, investigating biological correlations between the children having PLMs and their previous personalities. Fourth, to investigate the continuity of psychological and physiological characteristics as analyzed through the Indian knowledge systems. Fifth is past life regression. Sixth is, of course, the most important, developing a theory for reincarnation. Can we really have something predictive here? Right? And these are some photographs from a recent study of a 5-year-old child having PLMs. From the left to right are the heart rate variability study, EEG-based study, cognitive tests, and a past life memory test where the child is finding the way to their previous personality's home. So we are employing improved techniques for this research, new research program, including things like new field study protocols, blinded studies, and rigorous statistical analyses. Investigation of any anomalous cognitive development trajectories for these children, since they have access to these past life memories, right? And they get into the persona of this previous person. And a systematic study of what information exactly is passing from one body to another. So especially in the context of biological features, qualia, skills, habits, personality, etc. Right? Trying to develop a reproducible procedure through which we could elicit past life memories in any person, and developing finally a predictive theory for reincarnation. So then the Eastern schools of philosophy and these cases of reincarnation type really argue for the functioning of the mind, or at least the storage of some kind of mental information independent of physical matter. So you cannot go beyond this. You cannot bypass this, of course. So this does not necessarily imply, though, that there is substance dualism between the mind and body. But since the mind and physical space-time may share a common substrate, or that physical reality itself may be contained within mind stuff. Okay, I mean, these are all far out kind of metaphysical explanations, but nevertheless, I think we really need to seriously explore these avenues, because we haven't been able to find any satisfactory answers to things like the hard problem of consciousness and so on. So I refer to this wider encompassing substrate here as the subtle world, borrowing from the Indian knowledge system metaphysical concepts like sukshma and subtle. The phenomena associated with extraordinary abilities, again, I mean, gives further credence to this metaphysical picture. And this topic not only includes parapsychological phenomena such as telepathy, clairvoyance, and psychokinesis, like the spoon bending shown here on the top right, but also child prodigies and instantaneous travel from one place to another, which seems unbelievable, but which is described in the Indian knowledge systems in the context of yogic siddhis and is portrayed on the lower right corner. And to quote from Edwin Bryant's recent paper, Edwin Bryant from Rutgers, for those of you who know him, on the metaphysical logic of yogic siddhis, a recent paper by him, he says, within the Sankhya school, external gross perceivable matter is a densification of subtler matter, and this of subtler matter still. And the buddhi or mind being the most subtle of these substrates. Once the yogi has transcended the limitations of karmic bonds, they are in a position to manipulate the external effects emanating from the causal universal mind. Anyways, that's Edwin Bryant from the Sankhya school. And at the bottom is a person who can read despite being blindfolded. And this research is being led by one of our affiliates, Parveen Kumar. So stay tuned for more results on that. What is the mind, and how does our universe store mental information? Very important question. I feel that the subtle body concept in Eastern schools of philosophy may perhaps offer deeper insights into such kinds of questions. The subtle body itself has been described as a storehouse of every single piece of mental information, not just from this life, but from all previous lives. and for all living beings, of course. Subtle body anatomy defines a template over which perceivable physical structures may form. And like in the case of biological species, for example, right? Many Sanskrit terms have been used to describe the subtle body concept, of course, Sukshma Sharira, Linga Sharira, Antakarana Chitta, and so on, for those of you who are IKS experts in the room. And this may be compared with Plato's conception of space of forms, which I find very interesting. And gaining deeper insights of these concepts may help us understand elusive topics such as embryogenesis, the mechanisms of meditation and yogic practices, OBs and NDEs, reincarnation, extraordinary abilities, perhaps even birth, death, and aging, and an improved approach towards biology and medicine, to say the least. So at IMEX, we are currently writing a book titled The Concepts of Subtle Body and Consciousness in Eastern Knowledge. The idea is to basically consolidate all these perspectives and see if some coherent themes come through. And we have another useful resource, which is the Mind-Brain Interface book, which delves into the cutting-edge research for probing the relationship between the mind and the subtle body or brain. So going a step further into the IKS metaphysical model of reality, the Vedanta and Yoga schools of philosophy place conscious self outside of the mind-body system, and they discuss how the conscious self falsely identifies with that system. And in this scenario, the conscious self has the ability to possess a mind, the ability to interface with an external world through the senses, and so on. And this leaves the possibility of there being a transcendent world where the conscious self possesses a transcendent mind and senses to experience real objects, real people, have feelings and relationships, the things that we really cherish the most in our lives. So although this is an attractive metaphysical picture presented by Indian knowledge systems, we need a mathematical framework, really a predictive model to explain reincarnation and extraordinary abilities. And in this context, I particularly like Donald Hoffman's conscious agents framework, where physical space-time itself is seen as just a headset that is employed by the conscious agent or conscious being to interface with the external world. And I'm really looking forward to his talk, which comes next. And with this, I would like to wholeheartedly thank the co-investigators and students undertaking the reincarnation and extraordinary abilities research, and also Jim Tucker for providing valuable resources and advice on the reincarnation program. And I do apologize if I've missed out on anyone. There are many great researchers involved in these kinds of programs. But finally, I would encourage you to also visit imix.org for more information and for connecting with our team. And thank you very much for having me at this conference. Have a great day.